I know you don't want to hear a lot from me, so I'm going to go ahead and turn it on over to Misty Klobuchar. Misty's with Samantha, who has done fantastic work on the Choose Greater Peoria initiative. How many have heard about the Choose Greater Peoria? Okay, so Misty, they're a little aware of it, so there we go. All right.
Good morning, everyone. As Rick said, my name is Misty Klobuchar. I'm with an organization called Samantha. We are a marketing firm down on Water Street. I'm actually here today. I'm going to take this off so it's easier. On behalf of Laura Cullinan with the Gilmore Foundation. She asked me to speak because she's out of town today. Laura is our key client on the Choose Greater Peoria initiative, and so she would love to be here with you today. I hear she was here about a year ago, so some of this might be repetitive, but hopefully I can catch you up on sort of what we've been doing. Also super excited to be partnering with Dr. Kirk Bailey today. I'm going to be talking about the talent attraction side of sort of the economic engine of bringing people to Peoria. And then of course, Dr. Kirk Bailey will be talking about workforce development. And we really talk about how those things go hand in hand, right? We want to bring people to our region. We want to bring people up in our region and then help fill the jobs that are here. And I didn't fully understand that sort of chicken and egg scenario. I always thought that maybe it was required to get business here to then get people, and I've learned it actually works the other way around. Business comes here if you have great talent, and so that's what we're trying to do. I'll start by talking about how this initiative got started. The Gilmore Foundation was started by a man named Bob Gilmore. He was an executive at Caterpillar, and when he passed, he left a foundation to the region. And his whole mission was to pour into Peoria. He really wanted this sort of region to thrive. And he thought the best way to do that was to really bring business people together and get their ideas about what the region needed. So Laura came to Samantha a year or two ago and she said, how do we get all the businesses and civic organizations in town to come together and really define one or two things that we can do for this region? Because that's what Bob would have wanted. So today we have built an organization called the Greater Peoria Leadership Council. You see all of these names up here. We've got representatives from corporate, community, education. We even have an advisory council. And these folks get together about every 6 weeks and they talk about the region and they talk about what business needs the region to do to make their businesses thrive. When we pulled folks together in the beginning, they said, you know what, we're really struggling with talent attraction. That's probably the #1 need we have for the region. Peoria has thousands of jobs available and we're really struggling to fill them. And so we said, how can we rally the community around a vision for people wanting to move to Peoria? You know, the organizations who are part of this said, we have great jobs. We don't have trouble selling our jobs. We have trouble selling the region. Can you help us with that? And we said, we can. We understand that's your #1 priority, but the challenge here is that Peoria doesn't really have a brand right now. It doesn't have sort of something to hang our hat on that we can own as our unique message. So that was really the foundational starting point. And what we came up with at that point in time, after doing a lot of research, was recognizing that if people are going to up and move their families, they want to move to a place where they can really live greater. So we started talking about the idea that here in Central Illinois, in this Greater Peoria region, people actually do have time because it doesn't take as long to get places. They have more space because we have so much green space, right? We have the #1 park district in all of Illinois. You can buy a home here and not live in a small apartment. And they also have opportunity. Every single GPLC business leader is focused on being growth-minded. We want people who are here to believe that they can become something, and I've certainly felt that energy and that culture in these conversations. So what we did in year 1 is we sort of built the engine, right? We didn't have a website, we didn't have a message. We had to get this Choose Greater Peoria name out there. So we worked with Discover Peoria, and we worked with the Chamber, and we worked with the Greater Peoria Economic Development Council. We tried to pull together all of the disparate things that were existing at that time. Believe it or not, I think we had like 8 websites, and so we had to organize it all together. Maricol and Rick were very much a part of those conversations and helping us really figure out how to brand the region. This year, we're evolving well beyond that. Hopefully, you have seen some of this messaging. While in year 1, we were just getting the foundation under us, this year we decided we really need to put this bright, bold messaging in front of our own residents. So hopefully, even though we're still doing the paid talent attraction campaign, we're doing social media and paid media outside of Peoria. You're not going to see all of those digital ads because they're not targeted to you. But I want you to know that that is still happening behind the scene. Just yesterday, Laura Cullinan presented that we have received over 3,000 form entries of people who are very interested in wanting more information about Peoria. So I want you to know that that is working, and we are working with the GPEDC to make sure that we can call all of those people interested in Peoria. But beyond that, we have refreshed our website, we have billboards. You're going to start seeing there's more here messaging throughout Peoria. And what there's more here means is that there's so much about our region that we don't even often understand. It's kind of like being a tourist in your own city. We want to share all the amazing insights about Peoria that maybe we don't already know. You're going to start seeing presence at the airport. When people come to Peoria, we want them to come and pick up these little brochures and sort of, we've got all these cards that talk about all the places you should explore in Peoria. Whether it's coffee shops or pizza places or taco places, we want people to go and spend money when they come into town. Really proud of this. We've developed these recruitment and welcome kits that we're now handing out to anybody who's interested in Peoria. And anecdotally, we've heard feedback that they've never seen another community do something like this to give them so much information from the start. So we have realtors calling us daily asking for more. This has been a great addition to sort of the marketing kit that talks about our community. On top of that, we are working with every business that's a part of the GPLC, and if there's anyone here today that wants more information about that or how to get involved, please reach out to me. We are providing materials so that we can have physical manifestations of this marketing campaign in the businesses that we're serving, whether it's digital assets for their screens, whether it's pull-up banners they can have in their lobby. You see Dr. Kirk Bailey there. We're also offering co-branding opportunities with the organizations. This is an ad that Illinois Mutual ran right alongside our branding, so that as they're doing their employment efforts to reach out to get people to apply, they're using our materials. The other thing you might see around town is that we are doing a lot of partnerships with bars, restaurants, coffee shops. We want these materials in places where Peorians go and see, and you can see it has QR codes so that they can learn more about the initiative. Hopefully throughout the summer you see this continue, because we really we have this idea that if we're positive about ourselves and others will share the message, that will go to friends and family, and sometimes that's the best way to shine a spotlight on Peoria. We have this slide in here because we do believe this is a movement, right? This doesn't happen by one or two groups. We have to get in front of organizations like this and ask folks to share the message. So some of you may know Leanne Skuse with River City Construction. She was an ambassador for us last year. We not hired, but we had volunteers, 6 or 7 people come and say, I want to tell my Peoria story. Not just my business story, but I'm willing to share a little bit about why this region is so important to me personally. So we're building on this year. We have a whole host of additional ambassadors. We're actually doing an influencer campaign, which I have learned so much about. I had no idea how many influencers were in the Peoria region. People with hundreds of thousands of followers wanting to talk about how much they love this community free of charge just because they love it here. So if you are interested in talking about your Peoria story or why you love your community, just know that people like hearing from people, not brands. And the more you're willing to do that, the better it will be for us. And you #choose Greater Peoria. Again, we have these little cards that we're going to be handing out in restaurants and hotels. We need people's help to talk about what a great place this is. So we're asking groups like this to champion this initiative, use our materials, talk about this in your spheres of influence. On our website, you can download an entire resource library, and we hope that you engage with our posts. If you leave here today, go to Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, follow Choose Greater Peoria. And the last thing I'll note, just because I want to hand it over quickly, just yesterday we did a press conference down on the riverfront announcing that Choose Greater Peoria is going to be sponsoring Red, White, and Boom this year. And you may be wondering, why would a talent attraction effort focus on fireworks, right? Well, we've made it our mission to identify the things in Peoria that are the first, best, and only. And I don't know about you guys, but our fireworks display is unbelievable, right? It is one of the top 2% in the nation, certainly the largest in Illinois. And it's those kinds of things that we have that we don't talk nearly enough about. So we are sponsoring this. We're going to have all kinds of messaging down there on the riverfront about there's more here. We're going to have pauses in the show where a big orange firework that represents Peoria comes up, and they're going to voice that over. We've got Greg Batten sponsoring this and being our spokesperson since he's such a recognizable sort of personality. And Jahan Gordon Booth was there yesterday just talking about when we do things like this in Peoria, it shines a spotlight on the entire state of Illinois, which is exactly what we need to do. So good news there. Another event that I didn't realize, you guys may have a heart for this, Ledgestone, it has the biggest disc golf tournament in the country. Thousands of people come to the Greater Peoria region and tour all of our 11 plus sort of disc golf communities, and they bring their family and they stay for 2 weeks. I didn't know this. So this is another amazing thing that Choose Greater Peoria is going to sponsor an ACE race in downtown Peoria, a pop-up disc golf course that everybody can take part in. And then in September 15th actually, I should have put that up there, we are holding a pep rally event where all area schools and colleges are going to come together, and we're going to do a sports and band and arts day, and it's going to be a great family fun event. So another thing to get our messaging out about why there's more here. So that's it. I went through it really quickly, but I just wanted you to have some updates on what we're doing. Any questions for me?
Oh, come on. Somebody, go ahead. How many are involved right now? Oh, go ahead.
So I've lived in San Antonio, and I used to work for the Visitors Bureau there.
Okay.
And so same thing, you know, every city's trying to attract more talent. And one of the things that we did is we kind of had a pin of like, I live here, I love it here, ask me why. And so when there were people that were in town, they would identify people that wanted to help them by having a pin with them.
That's
Is that
awesome.
something that your ambassadors do? How do you know your ambassadors when they're out in public?
So great point. So this summer at Red, White, Blue, we will have, you'll see people in yellow t-shirts with the big asterisk. I didn't talk enough about the asterisk, but you notice that on all the materials. That's going to become a visible, tangible sign of what more means in Peoria. An asterisk literally means like it denotes there's something more to tell. So we're going to start putting that out in the universe. We also talk about Peoria as sort of a little star among big stars. How many have heard us described as between Chicago and St. Louis, right? Yeah, that's kind of how we're known. But we are a big star in our own right. We don't just want to be identified by being between two other cities. So that's also what the asterisk is going to represent.
I have one more question.
Yes.
How many languages do you have this information in? Do you have it in Spanish?
That is a great question. We are actually getting a ton of Spanish-speaking applicants, so that is something that we are going to be looking into. Thanks for asking that.
It might be less of a question, but a quick comment, because I work with international students at Bradley. I'm Angela Weck with the Peoria Area World Affairs Council. The flyer thing is on the table, it's mine if you have questions. But I have students ask all the time, this place is so boring. How do you find stuff to do? And so I went through, and the 10 websites you're talking about, you do Explore Peoria, Discover Peoria, the Chamber of Commerce, Wikipedia actually lists a lot of things. So I put them all together, and then this last spring, I stumbled across Choose Greater Peoria. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, thank you.
Well, thank you for that endorsement. There is a blog, and we are trying to be so intentional about thinking about families, you know, who are coming to town. How can they spend a day in Peoria? Because you can get people to visit, they will come back, and they may even consider a move. So just so you know, Dr. Kirk Bailey has helped us figure out a KPI strategy to measure how well we are doing, and we definitely hit our hiring goal last year. In fact, we surpassed it, and so we're going to hopefully see that momentum continue. Okay.
One thing, Misty, you know, if you want to be involved, get a hold of us, get a hold of Misty.
Yes, you can absolutely email info@Choose Greater Peoria. That will come to us. We will distribute it. We can get you the materials that you saw today. If you want to have a meeting to talk about how to get involved with your organization, we'd love to hear from you. Thank you.
Good job. Thank you. Hold on, I need some housekeeping real quick. Corey will have a heart attack if this is on here. All right, we're still in business, so we'll do this. All right, there we go. All right, I thought I was energetic, but the person that I'm going to introduce, I can't keep up with. And I don't know anybody in the room can. So, Dr. Kirk Bailey, if you would, please. And the way ICC was known as Harvard on the Hill, way back in the day when I was going there. And in fact, I went when the Quonset huts were there. The new buildings weren't there, so it was the old Quonset huts. So, dating myself, but what an improvement this has been for the community, and Peoria North is fantastic. If you've not been out there, I went out there a couple times just to eat because the culinary school there is amazing. But again, what she's done at this college over the last few years is just amazing, and what she has planned for the future is unbelievable also. So I'll turn that over to Sheila.
Thank you so much. Well, I just learned two things. We are no longer Harvard on the Hill after Rick Swan left. Did you hear me say that? He's taking a little credit for what's going on there. And he's also giving me a very nice introduction. He's golfing at our golf outing later today. And whenever there's golf involved, you get an awful lot of kind words from Rick, so we appreciate that as well. So we'd really like to, I'm going to provide you some updates, go through some things quickly, but then wanted some time at the end for you to share with me. Are things improving with your workforce, with your hiring? What are you still struggling with? So then we may go back and I could share more details on some of those initiatives if they are helpful to you. Or have we not, right, sort of done everything we need to do from your point of view? It's so easy when you represent a big region to talk about your biggest city, which is Peoria, but both Choose Greater Peoria is about the bigger region. We are about the bigger region. In fact, our larger campus here is just right down the street in East Peoria. So let me give you a couple updates about the college, if you would indulge me, and then we'll have our workforce discussion. So I'm going to talk about some of our outcomes, our current workforce programming, so you sort of get a feel for where we are, and then we'll launch into that discussion. So we like to think of ourselves as excellence delivered. So we took on a new strategic plan 7 years ago. We are now, so there are outcomes brochures if you want to see sort of what we accomplished the first time and how we moved through, those are there. And then we're moving into a very exciting new plan, continuing to serve this community, the residents, and all of you, hopefully in new and different ways to keep up with your needs. But things have turned around since COVID, right? Fall enrollment was up just under 8%. We're up again. Opening day for summer was up 5%. We were just upgraded financially. We're a AA plus. Only 2 community colleges in the state have that. That's tough to get when you're in a government agency in Illinois, right? If you think of why that might be for a rating service, right? So we're proud of that. We are actually taking out, we just took out an $18 million bond, so that saved the taxpayers about $300,000 being at that rating level. We're going to use that. We are still, and I probably shouldn't say this out loud, but you can find it out other ways, using a DB2 back-end pre-Y2K ERP system. Okay, that's not something they advertised when I took this job, right? So we are skipping over 2 generations of technology going right to state-of-the-art, which would allow our students to be tracked for us to put things on their transcripts in terms of micro-credentials, CE Workforce, doesn't matter where it came from. They will now have a record of every credential that they could bring to the workforce, right? Because before you didn't get it unless you were at that credential, that 1-year credential or the 2-year level. So now you'll have a way to evaluate people in terms of skill sets they're bringing, competencies they're bringing to your company. So we think that could really help you. So some things we've done that we've gotten some state and national attention. We reduced placement into developmental education by 66% over our first strategic plan. So what that meant, before there were 5 levels of developmental math. You take 1 a semester, that's 5 semesters before you can start taking credit. How many of those students you think ever graduated? Right? If you had to come for 3 years before we let you start taking credit courses, what happened? They didn't stick around. So by changing this, and this was, by the way, with no decrease in the grades they earned, right, or that trajectory, right? So we found ways, we're working with high schools, we're building things in, we're testing students differently, we're putting math together differently. So those people are now getting out, earning credentials, and going to work, right? Whereas before they weren't making it through college. So that's wonderful. We won the National Community College Equity Award. We've redone everything at the college, web, catalog, around career clusters. Because before, if you would go to our website and you would type in, police, you would say, oh, they don't have a program. Okay, go someplace else, because they didn't know to call it criminal justice, right? So now it's all in career clusters. It's all cross-referenced with whatever name they could come in. Again, bringing more people in and pushing them back out with the credentials they wanted. The reason that 95% advising is so impressive, at least we're proud of it, is because the satisfaction rate used to be below 20%, right? So to move it to 90, we're sort of happy with that. As you guys all know, customer service is the name of the game. We have moved with our workforce equity initiative over 1,000 people in this community out of poverty. Those were people below the poverty line with no credentials, most of them not even finishing high school, into jobs like welding, truck driving, land techs, LPNs, and I'm really proud of what that. And we brought in over 50 million in grants in the last 6 years. We're really big on other people's money, right? If you don't have enough money, right, you can't just say, I can't do it because we don't have the resources, so you go out and find the resources. So we're really proud of that too. One of the messages that we really try to get out there, we talk about workforce with you, you're a business audience, but you need to know our transfer, right, programs do very well. We have excellent faculty. Our students, when they transfer on, outperform native students. So when our students go to the University of Illinois, our students make better grades the junior year than people who started at U of I did, right? So they're very well prepared to transfer on. And you may not know, but there was a new law passed in Illinois last year that it was always the practice that when community college students transfers, that universities had to take those credits, but they were taking those as elective credits and not to the majors. So most of those students were having to take, 5, 6 classes over again, even though they took it, right, as sort of a way for, right, I didn't say this out loud, so it's a little extra money, they gotta stay an extra semester, right? So now they have to take that, so that transfer is so much smoother now, in case people who are looking to go. And the big thing is here, you don't have to, these, right, the average student getting out of a university is, $40,000, $50,000 in debt. You don't have to do that. You don't have to start your life out that way. You can get a wonderful education and move on. And that's better for our students because they're not going to college because they don't know that the debt they're taking on is going to be worth it. So if we cannot have them take on the debt and they can come through us, we can get them, because we need them to have those degrees and those advanced degrees because you need them in the workforce, right? So the net result of that is less people are going to college. We don't want that, right? We want to instead, not everyone needs it. People say not everyone needs to go to college. That's not true. 65% of our jobs require a credential past high school. Not everyone needs a 4-year degree, right? And you don't need to start out at a 4-year degree. Now, I got a doctorate, so I think more education is great, but I also get that there is a reason you go to school, which is to set yourself up for a good job. So we've now set up programs to get people good jobs along the way, right? It doesn't all take a 4-year degree. So let's talk about workforce programming. When we started all of this, if you've been to these before, I say this all the time, in this region, less than 40% of adults had a post-secondary credential. Why is that a problem? Because 60% of the jobs required one, right? So when we started this 6 years ago, right? So we have all these people who can't earn a family-sustaining wage because they don't have the credentials to get the wonderful jobs you have. They're not qualified, right? So we put together a regional workforce alliance. We're going to move from 40 to 60. We're going to catch up. So the challenge was, like I said, we didn't have it. Employers had workforce gaps. And 99% of the new jobs nationally and in this region required a credential. So where you're going as you're growing, right, you want credentials for those new jobs. So we created the Regional Workforce Alliance. We were driven by, I'm a big matrix person, I'm a data geek. So we wanted to infuse workforce experiences into 7 to 12. What we heard from employers is, in fact, they wanted to get in. How do I get into, right, the high schools? How do I come tell my story? Well, they can't teach what they need to teach if, right, all the 1,000 businesses are going to go speak for an hour. So how do we get that infused? How do we do that systematically? How do we upskill our under and unemployed adults? How do we ensure that competencies align with what you need? And then what do we do about wraparound services? Because some people just don't, they're surviving, and that takes 24 hours a day, so how are they going to fit school in? How do we help them with their personal needs so they can get a credential? And then again, other people's money, right? We like that theme. So for each one of these are some of the outcomes we've had over the last 6 years. Now, 100% of high school students, right, receive workforce exposure, 100%. We had a 38% increase in high school students who had workplace-based experiences, right? So they're actually out in your companies while they're in high school. We created GP, which is an essential skills program, so we can make sure we're talking about showing up on time and being responsible and working in a group, right? And how to work with your supervisor, all the things that when you guys let them go in the first 3 months, it's usually because of those things, building that into curriculum. We've had an 18% increase in dual credit completers, over 1,000% increase in pre-apprenticeships. Those are for the high school students and a 93% increase in college apprenticeships. So we're getting them out with you, learning the skills, right, and then they're staying with you as they go through. Upskilling, we've impacted over 10,000 lives with 32 credentials. That seems like an odd number until you read the next. We've done almost 7,000 employees who are currently in your companies. You say, hey, I need these people to be able to perform at this level. We come in and do a customized training, either on your site or you bring them to us in a boot camp style to get them where you need them, right, so the company moves forward. And we've done that with almost 7,000 people in the last 5 years. With over 3,000 badges with that GP. Again, that's at the Essential Skills Program. We've worked with over 1,200 companies, the unions, apprenticeship partners, and community-based organizations. Competency alignment, you can see that we do a TPM process through the GPEDC. I know Jeffrey's here this morning. Jeffrey, raise your hand, right? He's running that program. So that's a formal process where you sit down with companies and say, where are your jobs going? What do you need? And then we compare that to our curriculum, and then we change our curriculum to make sure that we're covering what you need now. And these are the areas we've done that in. That's gone very well. So what's the outcome of that? Well, in the last 5 years, we've moved from 40%, right, to 43% of adults who have credentials. So 3% doesn't seem like a lot, but that's over the region. And I'll give you a little caveat here. We also had another 4% of our population leave the area over that same time frame. And the people who leave have the credentials, right? They have the educational background then to go. So if we could keep people a little more, right, choose Greater Peoria, we would have actually moved that by 7 basis points. And that's because of the programming we're doing and keeping people moving, right? So we are responsible to you in building your workforce and responsible to the individuals. They earn these credentials. It changes the trajectory of their lives and the trajectory of their families' lives. So we're very committed to that impact in the community. So you can see we're working with a lot more people than we used to based on that plan. And those are the GP badges. So those are the essential skills we're working with people on. Let's just look at this real quick. We are adding basics in IT, using computers, networks, some very basic things that everyone needs when they start to. So that's the next badge that's coming up. And then earn and learn apprenticeships. This just continues to grow. What would you guess the fastest growing apprenticeship is in this region? IT, what? Solar. Yeah, John's seen this before, so he's cheating. It's IT. It's IT. So we're taking students, and they're starting an IT program while they're working with Accenture, while they're working with CAT, while they're working with Komatsu, while they're working with our banks, and while they're working with our regional insurance companies, right? They earn the credential over 2 years, and they have to stay with that employer for another 2 years. And we have the majority of those companies now, once they've stayed those 2 years, very good standing, they will put their career on the same trajectory they would put someone who has a 4-year degree. Why? Because they know the company, they're committed with the company, right? And they learn the extra skills on the job, right? So this isn't limiting their career potential by running through these apprenticeships. We need to do a ton more. Because students, a third of high school students in this region, right after high school, do what? Nothing. They don't get full-time jobs. They don't go to school. That is not good for this region. You ask them why they don't go on, they don't know what to study, and they believe, because of all of our sort of negative talk in this culture, right, they believe that going to college isn't going to get them anything. What changes that? An apprenticeship, right? So they're going to pay them to go to school, they're going to guarantee them a job at the end, right? That's the way the students see it. Right? Because when we first started this, we had a bunch of people in the organization who said, well, they're not going to want to do that. They're not going to want to commit to an employer. It's committing to the employer that makes them go to school. They now know if they work hard and earn this, they've got a good paying job, and they know what those salaries are when they start, and they get paid right while they study. So I really think with the demographics in this region, right, and a full third of high school students not engaging, this is the way to do it. And you take a look at, run your own numbers, but we've run numbers with companies we do apprenticeships with. what they're spending for the turnover in those same positions over the 2 years they have an apprentice, it's cheaper to pay their tuition and have them start working for you, right, than it is to continually refill those positions, right? And then, because at the end of paying that money, you paid it anyway, at the end of that, you just don't have an employee. In this program, you have one who's got to stay with you for 2 years, right? So we think this really could be, right, the way to pull people, these young minds who we need in this region to work for us, right? We need them to be the firemen, we need them to be the police, we need them to do all these jobs. This is going to be a way to get that done. So we're really excited about that. Then the Workforce Equity Initiative, I told you about that. These are people currently below the poverty line, about 60% African American. That's because that's our demographic in this region. 60% of the people of poverty are African American. We have pulled 1,000 individuals out of poverty into jobs that pay 30% above the regional living wage in these areas. Right? This is a national model. This population nationally completes degrees and certificates past high school at about a 28% rate. We're currently at 72. Right, we got a call from the First Lady's office the other day saying, what are you doing? What are you doing in Illinois and Peoria? So, proud of that. And this is, yeah, we won those awards for that, so you heard the program. So, this is who is involved in here in the Good Jobs Challenge? All right, that's a question. And since no one's raising their hand, y'all aren't leaving, right, until I get some people signed up. So, the Good Jobs Challenge, we got just under $15 million. There were over 500 applicants for this. They picked 32. Only 2 went to community colleges. We have it, right? Very, very competitive. We are going to credential for free 1,000 people in this community into high-end IT jobs, right? It's a 3-year grant. We're halfway through. We're 20% ahead. We are the 7th best performing program in the country, and EDA told me I wasn't allowed to share that in public, so if you guys know people who work for the federal EDA, please don't tell them that I just shared that with you. And this is a wonderful collaboration because with Bradley and Eureka College, so Eureka's focusing on cybersecurity at a higher level, Bradley's focusing on a lot of IT in healthcare. We are doing all of the basics in land, and we're doing programming boot camps, so no one who knows anything about IT, right, they come out 8 weeks later and they're certified in Python, right? So there's a lot going on there. We're halfway through. We still have about 300 open positions. About 60% of the people in the program are current workers. So they'll say, I've got people who are in LAN, but what the positions I can't fill are in programming or in data analysis. So then we will bring those people in, right, and train them to do the other jobs. So as opposed to a company not being able to find them in a market, they take who they have, they repurpose them, re-credential them, and then those lower level jobs, we're pumping people out at the technician level so they backfill with our graduates, right? So that's working pretty well. The economic impact of having 1,000 more IT jobs filled in this community is huge. So if you have an IT department, and I'm not going to believe y'all if you say you don't, right? Be thinking about this because we are far more competitive as you as individual companies and us as a region, right? If we can build these competencies. Lance, that's true, right?
It is very true.
There you go. Okay, if he would have said no, I would have said, man, I should have invited him to play golf. Yeah. Okay. So with the accelerator, again, we're focused on 20% of that is going to people who are currently uncredentialed, and we help them through. Then the majority of it, right, just over 50% is coming with people currently in your companies who may be lower level IT or not IT at all, who we re-credential. And then we have an awful lot of people who have a 4-year degree. And here's a really well-kept secret. Not all degrees pay well, right? Some people get 4-year degrees and they find out later, well, that didn't get me where I thought it was going to get me. So we have people with 4-year degrees coming back in and certifying in IT and then making the step over. So that's, like I said, so we have 1,000 people we need to put through. We're currently at 800. And again, something else that I'm not allowed to tell you legally. So they've come to us, other groups of that 32 are underperforming, so we think we can bring in more than that 15 million. We think they're going to give us other people's money because they want people employed that they can point to, right, so they look good. So we think we're going to probably catch another couple million, right, to do over 1,000 in this community. You all know this, so we'll go through this quickly. We have a corporate and community ed, which we do customized training. We do all kinds of certifications that really are not at college level. This is a really exciting program, guys. Who's heard of Employ Illinois? Yay! We got some hands. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't introduce my trustee. Cindy Bird is here with us, one of our fabulous trustees for ICC. They get paid an awful lot of money to sit on that board. Nothing, but it takes a lot of time and focus, and so we really appreciate our trustees, and thank you for being here, Cindy. So Employ Illinois, one of the biggest, like I said, those third are doing nothing. So how this is structured is that we're working with Pekin, Peoria, and Illini Bluffs. And so urban, suburban, and rural high school across 11 career paths. We're gonna get those students a semester's worth of college credit in high school, so up to 15 credits, and a pre-apprenticeship. From there, they go straight into one of 3 apprenticeship options. They either join the trades, they go direct into a company like Morton Industries, right, does their own apprenticeship program, or they come to ICC and they earn a degree and earn an apprenticeship. So they will then know from their sophomore year of high school on, if they want to work in one of these areas, that there is a fully paid pathway for them, right? Because if you go into the union, they pay for your training. You come to us, an apprenticeship, the company pays for your training. There is a fully funded pathway to get them into these positions. And we think it's going to be a game changer. Hopefully we're going to go from a third to 10% of getting people through. So we're very excited. Just got $4 million from the feds for this. 6 months into it, they pulled the last $3 million back because they finally reached the budget agreement, so they took that money back. So anyone got an extra $3 million laying around, talk to me, because we're gonna go find. I refuse to give up on this project. We're gonna go get $3 million out of other people's money here. And then in the middle, and I need a different analogy because when you talk about it's like a Match.com, right? That's sort of creepy when you're talking about high school students. So I need to find another way to say that. But basically, we're putting together an app is a big part of where this money is going to go. The big lift is getting all the high schools to be on the same schedule with the same definitions. Here's what a pre-apprenticeship, here's what they do, here's when it happens, here's how you connect. Because once that's standardized, we're already standardized on the after high school part. So then students who want a job as an HVAC tech can go in and be matched with an HVAC company who's looking for somebody, right, and wants them to come through, because the big issue now is it's not only different at every high school, it's different at every program at every high school, because the individual high school teachers determine how they run that program. So once we standardize that, you as a company can then say, I'm looking for people, I want some flesh blood, right? We've got, our average age is in the 50s or sometimes low 60s. We need to get this done. And you can say that I want 3 high school students, but then I'll support them to an apprenticeship, and you can start planning your workforce ahead of time, engaging these high school kids coming out. So we're very excited about this as an opportunity. We offer career services, just so you know, and that's open to the public, right? People who need help on the resume, people who may be changing careers, people who are just in a different place and want to come in. We help anybody in the community. If you're not signed up with us, you should be, because that's all free, right? So if you want an apprenticeship or an earn and learn, or you have jobs available part-time while they're in school, full-time later, it's free to go on and advertise at ICC for our students. So we've got 8,000 of them, right? So, and most of them want to work while they're in school, so we're a good resource there. So what we've tried to do over this last plan is, these are the things that we've been working on and we've mastered, all in support of both our students and the workforce and all of you. So, how's it going? Where are you still struggling? What advice do you have, or things you think we might need to turn our attention to that you didn't see here as we went through quickly? So, Rick.
What's the difficulty in getting the high schools together? Is it state rule?
No, it's, and I didn't mean that to say anything derogatory. We have amazing school systems in this area. There's never been a reason for them to do it the same way, right? So everyone does it a little bit differently. There's those overall qualifications, right, or requirements from the state. But the state doesn't necessarily require that the manufacturing program at East Peoria, right, provide pre-apprenticeships. And if they do, they're gonna do it on the schedule that makes sense for them and on it, right, which makes it so difficult, because I hear from companies all the time, how do I get into the high schools? I want more people of that age joining my company, how can we do that? And there isn't a consistent way to do that. So now that we're all in this position and we see how many students aren't going forward, we say, how can we work together differently to make that happen? And the key to that's going to be standardization. So it's not that people took their ball and go home and refused to standardize. We've never really put it on the table to say, hey, if we do this alike, then companies can go to one place, say, here's what I'm looking for. We can match it and take care of those company needs, right? The high school people all want students to have those opportunities. The students want to have those opportunities. And what we're realizing that if we don't do it the same way, we're never going to be able to get at scale with those opportunities. So it's not that people were saying, here's the standard and I refuse to do it. There just hasn't been a standard way to do these things. And I think once we figure that out and then get this app up and running, just be a game changer for the region.
Could the regional superintendents gather the high schools together and meet folks?
Yeah, we meet with them twice a semester. So again, we started with another problem with standardization is the urban schools would say their needs are different than the suburban schools than the rural schools, and they all have different needs and challenges. That's all true. We've got to find a way to set standards to make it work for everybody, because if we can't make it easy for the businesses to engage, right? If we can't make that really consistent and predictable for you, because otherwise, you had people in HR who are trying to deal with this high school, they're only taking 2 students because it's just, right? It's not the same semester to semester, and it just takes a lot of time. If I can give you a formula, and this is the way it's gonna work, then you can say, well, can I make that work with my company or can't I? So we are working with the regional superintendents. We're gonna work it out with these 3, right? And prove at that scale it's a model, but the goal would be to make that available for all of the 38 high school districts that we serve. So wish us luck, right? And like I said, that extra $3 million comes here first. Any other questions? What's going on? What can we, yes?
So I work for a staffing agency in Peoria. So we interview, we meet with people that have skills, who want to earn skills. And the biggest issue that we have when placing someone, sometimes it's not the lack of skills or the interest, it's transportation. Our area, because of how it works and how it's laid out, that's the biggest issue we have with finding people jobs, because some people just need to stay in certain areas, again, because of transportation and how the seasons here change. You know, in the winter, it's much harder for people to walk or take a bike to wherever they're going. So I've always thought that if companies, like, if there was like, you know, some shuttle service, I guess, like Morton, for example, we have several clients in that area, and there are a lot of different companies that are kind of like right next to each other, like a little shuttle, right, from downtown to Morton or East Peoria. There's so many areas. Transportation is the #1 issue that we encounter with 90% of our applicants.
And couldn't agree more, very well said. We find that when we place our students and they're gone within the first 3 months, now that we have that badging, we're not hearing as much as they didn't show up and right, they can't work with the team, so hopefully we're dealing with that. But it's either childcare or it's transportation. The transportation system here, very good friends of ours, very good partners of ours, but they realize they're probably not running routes that work. So for example, in Peoria, right, they have 5 different bus lines that then run to the transit center, right? But then the typical schedule then for that 5-minute ride across up to the East Peoria campus is an hour and a half wait. So it's an hour and a half in the front end, an hour and a half at the back end to take 3 courses, because they can't take more than 3 courses, so they can't get them in and get the final bus home, right? So we really need to lay that out differently. Rivian was really good, and some of my local manufacturers weren't happy with us when we were putting people through that workforce, turning out CNC programmers, right, who could run those big machines. They had a lot of need when they were starting. Now they're laying off, but that's a whole other story. That they actually ran a shuttle, so people would go to that transportation hub, and they were running them back and forth, right? And then I had local companies saying to me, "What are you doing? Why aren't they working here? That's a different, right? That's a different city." And the answer was, if you provide them with transportation, they would rather stay closer they don't have cars. And we tend to think about once they get that job, well, then they're fine, because it's 30% above the living wage, and they're gonna, if you've never been able to afford a car, right, you can't afford to buy a car after working for 3 months, right? You haven't had enough time to save up the money. So if we could figure out where and as opposed to doing it, we've got to hit the population centers, but the end of those routes have to be major employers. So they're up in Chicago, they have all kinds of van services, exactly. If you've got 3 major employers in the same industry here, right, the employees get the vans and they have to have at least so many people in them, and then the system makes that available to them with the fee to cover the gas. I mean, there are ways to do this as opposed to just the bus lines. We've got to figure that out as a region. We currently have a pilot going with the city of Peoria, with our graduates from WEI, and for the next 6 months, we're going to follow them. We're going to make sure they have alternative transportation if they don't have it. What was the impact on the employer? Was there an impact on how long they stayed with those companies? That's being paid for off a federal grant. We'll have far better data about where those holes are and what we need to do with that system in about 4 months. That started 2 months ago. Anybody else a question or a comment, or, hey, that's all great, Sheila, but I still can't find anyone to take my job, so we're open for any feedback you have.
I guess the question is, how many people right now need employees?
How many people right now are having trouble filling your positions? I'm still there. Although I do say, we just hired a manager off that Choose Greater Peoria. Someone came in from a different part of the state through that, right through the 3,000 who put in, so we've hired our first one, so use that worked for us.
I definitely think that while the need for talent has slowed down, those technical roles that you're talking about filling are still so hard to find. And one of the things I think is fascinating about both the IT Accelerator program and your Employee Central Illinois, you're building things at such a systems level. I think it's fascinating how you're coordinating with all the businesses, the high schools, the colleges, universities, and if you could shed any more light on, you're talking about building a formula, but what have you learned over time about how to systematize programs like this that are driven by grant funding, and how can the business community has?
Right, so thanks for that. We really are trying to, we use the word ecosystems, trying to build ecosystems. We have $15 million is somebody else's money, right? For a one-time pop at 1,000, we're better off for it, right? But when that grant money goes away, we're right back to where we started, right? And 3 years from now, we're gonna be 1,000 behind. So we're really trying to change what we're doing and how we're doing it. So for example, we're in the process of converting everything at ICC to an 8-week semester. We're not gonna have the 2 big semesters, we'll have 5 semesters. We'll run year round with major programming, because right now if someone, you can start a program whenever you want as long as it's August, right? It's like Henry Ford, and you can have whatever color car you want as long as it's black, right? We need to get out of that era. So people come to us in September, we don't say, wait and come back in January. We say, hey, that's cool, because we've got another class starting in 5 weeks, so let's get your financial aid done, and let's get you your books, and let's figure out, and helping students figure out their life. Do you have daycare to make that happen, right? What's your transportation plan gonna be? So they don't think about that 2 days before and realize they haven't figured that out and they don't come to class, right? So we're trying to change as a system, and I think we need to work together regionally as a system. Bradley, Eureka, the high schools. So what we're trying to do is build out different systems that serve, because we think this is a great community and they deserve to be served well, and people here deserve great opportunities, and you guys bust your butts, right? You have great companies to give people opportunities. It's just not aligned the way it needs to be, and aligning is just going to take different ecosystems. So we're working on that. We don't have all the answers, and I'm not saying everything we do is a raging success, but I think we're absolutely in a much better place than we were 5 years ago, and we're going to be in a much better place than this 5 years from now. So.
Just real quick, I know.
Yes, sir.
Precision, the great buildings they're doing out more things. I know they're looking for employees. Dave, what are you guys, and not put you on the spot, but will. What are you seeing with your employees? Because you guys are growing so rapidly. What's the needs?
Yeah, I mean, we are in a slow time right now in the ag industry, and so we're kind of counter-cyclical to everybody else. But yeah, continuously needing people with transportation is a big piece of getting people to our operations facility, and then on top of that, convincing people to relocate to Central Illinois sometimes is is a challenge. So we've had more success than I would guess.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've been through Morton, witnessed their building and expansion and things. It's amazing what they're doing out there. Along with the medical. Sheila, what do you see in medical? A lot of interest?
Well, a ton of interest. So what, the medical industry is interesting because sometimes they're their own worst enemy. So in order to certify someone to be an RN, an LPN, a respiratory tech, a sonographer, they have to have so many hours in practicum, so actually in the hospital with professionals doing that, which we all want, right? We don't want them all learning on simulators and then you say, oh, well, how long have you been out of school? A week? Okay, is there anyone else here, right? We want to make sure they've done that, right, for a while and are certified in the hands-on patient care, right? So they are understaffed, so then they have less and less people that they can help us with our students, so we can send less students through, and then their number one complaint is they don't have enough employees. Well, I can't give you employees unless you give, right? So we're sort of stuck here the way that works. So what we are working with both hospital systems now is to take them through the apprenticeship model, right? Because we don't have enough. Anyone had surgery recently that was rescheduled? I know I'm on the third schedule of something that I'm having done here in about a couple of weeks. There aren't enough surge techs. So they take the emergencies, and anything that's a little less urgent then gets rescheduled because they have operating rooms available and not enough techs. They have enough surgeons at this point, not enough techs to staff it. So if the hospitals then prepay, right, an apprenticeship for the people to go through, and then they have to stay at least 2 years afterwards, that's a much better financial model, and they can plan that workforce, and then they know 2 years at a time how many people they're gonna need to put in a practicum, what shift they can work them on, so they've got more time to plan to make sure they can reach that capacity. And they've been doing some healthcare apprenticeships on the East Coast for a while now, but it's not very common, and we think if we can get that model in, that we can make a drastic improvement in terms of the number of people who are actually getting through and working in the hospitals. So that's what we're working with them on right now.
Any more questions? Does everyone, we hear about people, I know hospitality, they're looking for people. But again, I think Jody, you folks, transportation is probably a big issue for you guys, getting people, to here and things.
We're kind of fortunate, we have a bus stop right here.
Okay, so that works here.
But there's definitely transportation issues, I think, to cover all shifts for sure.
Yeah, and that's the part, is all shifts, because the bus only runs for so long and then limited on weekends as well. So it is a struggle there. That kind of.
Well, and so as much as we're systematizing and we're changing, I would, right, so don't run me off the stage, but I think companies need to put that hat on too. We've had stories of students who were fired after the first few weeks because they're always 15 minutes late to work when work starts at 8, but the bus doesn't drop them off to 8:15, and that's the way they get to work. So if that's a good employee and they have the technical skill and you've already invested them, you really couldn't, for that employee, give them a schedule that starts 15 minutes later and goes 15 minutes later, right? Is that really going to, but we need to do a better, a lot of our folks don't advocate for themselves, right? So they would say, well, you're right, I knew I was supposed to be here at 8 and I'm not here at 8, so I get it, they have to fire me. And then they go home and there's no place that they can work that they can walk to, so then they're back out of the workforce. So we're working really hard. Did you really have a conversation with your supervisor about that you're a bus rider and this is what's going on and this is sort of the, because I can't imagine, right, to save a technical person when you're really waiting for a technical person, is that 15 minutes really going to, right, when you'd rather have the worker, but they don't say that. So I would kindly recommend to everyone in this room too, ask the questions when they're leaving and they're not staying, what's going on. We find an awful lot of our students, again with transportation, the family is so proud of them. Right, and they finally got a good job and made probably benefits for the first time in their life, and everyone's supporting them. So the neighbor or the brother or the cousin, everyone's chipping in to get them back and forth to work because we want Bobby to be successful because he's never had this before. You get 3 months in and that's old. You can't be taking care of someone for the right, and so all that extra support goes away, and now they can't get to work consistently, and then they get fired again, right? So have conversations about what's going on and how you can work with people as well. Once they've been in the system a while, right, the expectation that they could afford a car and take care of that, that's absolutely where it should be. But when they're getting started, right, I think we're leaving some technicians and some opportunity behind, because it's always been that you start here, you end here, here's the shift times, and maybe there's just some flexibility you can have. Were you gonna add to that?
I was. So we did have that situation occur where we've had some team members that couldn't get to their position because the bus was always running late and it ran them 15 minutes late. So we had a conversation, brought outside the box and said, hey, can we go ahead and stagger the shift to start here and do it as we can? You know, obviously we can't have everybody do that, but have so many positions that start here to maybe work with them, and that did help.
Yeah, I think if we're all just flexible with our ecosystems on all sides, right? Because the bottom line of this, when we can get people a credential with labor market value, it changes the trajectory of their life, it changes the trajectory of their families' lives, it makes our businesses stronger, it grows our workforce, and it makes this region more economically vibrant. It's a win-win-win-win, right? So if we don't just keep finding ways to put new ecosystems, right? Take a look at our own policies. Where can we give and still be efficient, right? You're still running businesses, I get that. But if we can all keep moving in ways that feed into this ecosystem, it's nothing but benefits for everybody. So, yes.
So for the people here saying, what can we individually do as a business to influence this change? I wanted to share a success. We partnered with ICC.
Simantel partnered with ICC 2-3 years ago now, and we developed an endowed scholarship for a person of color. And that individual who won the scholarship applied 2 years in a row, so we started to build a relationship with this individual, and just this week started a summer internship in our content production area of our business, and just presented to our staff yesterday about how much Simantel has meant in his life and how excited he is. I hope that we hire this individual full time. And so it's just such a powerful way that ICC actually approached us about this opportunity. It helped with our social giving and responsibility. We've actually, built a relationship with this young kid, and we're excited to see him grow in our organization. Can you say more about that in terms of how, do those opportunities exist for businesses like this in town?
Absolutely. So if you're looking for, so that's the apprenticeships, that's the pre-apprenticeships, and Simantel didn't even do either one of those. But we said, hey, I've still got this number of students who are getting credentialed in this area. They need opportunities to work as they go through. So maybe it's an internship. And so we just started calling companies. Because if we've got kids who are taking that initiative and they're serious and they want that work experience and we don't have that yet, then we just start, there are plenty of you who are advertising, so we just start calling local companies who are advertising and say, we've got a wonderful person here, right? Can we work something out where they can get that experience and keep going? So now, I'm not staffed enough to do that with every one of our students, but we try to do it wherever we can. It's a little easier if you're interested in that to call us. And once I get that system up, right, you could just, hopefully you're gonna download that app and put it in your phone and you're just gonna order up a student. But, you want them with some work experience, right? So if you're trying to bring them in, if you were good to them, if you gave them an opportunity, people don't forget that. People don't forget that, right? And we talk about employee loyalty. You want a loyal employee, help them out when they're struggling going through school and just see how much longer they stay with you, right?
Y'all laugh, but by Monday, she'll have that figured out. So, any other questions? Sheila, you're new employee?
Oh, you know what? It was a really small, thin pool, and we really needed someone in the role. So we said, okay, Mike Eunice, you're sort of green, but we'll bring you in to help us out. So happy to introduce our new Vice President of Institutional Advancement, Mike Eunice. We're just delighted to have him at the college. And Rick is always so kind to give us these opportunities. It's wonderful to be able to speak with the business community. I usually bring a table of my folks, so if you're interested in one of these programs or someone else to talk to, we have a golf outing later today, so they're all already at the golf course. So you're stuck with me, but that doesn't mean I can't take your card and have the right person get back to you if you're interested in anything.
And by the
So
way,
thanks for that.
we'll have a collection jar out here for $3 million. Dennis, you got a checkbook with you?
It comes out of your pocket, yeah.
Oh, Triggs is getting it right out of his pocket.
Yeah, thank you, Dennis. I appreciate that.
All right. Who in this room can keep up with her? Come on, show of hands.
Nobody.
Nobody. What an asset to the community. I mean, one of our biggest cheerleaders. The city's doing a branding effort right now, and Ty's got a couple things he'd like to mention to you. So, Ty Livingston.
Good morning. So different than the branding effort, but a complement to it is we have a comprehensive planning effort undergoing right now as well too. And so that effort, as the name implies, is comprehensive in nature. So everything from transportation to land usage, to, you name it, it's covering it. So this process has a survey that's out right now. It's been 20 years since we've done one of these for the comprehensive plan. But for the survey, it's open for everybody, resident, non-resident. We want to hear from you. The city has changed a lot in the last 20 years. We've got a lot of great things going on. We want to continue that momentum, but we also want to hear from you. Where are things that areas that we need to work on more? What are things that we're doing good? We want to hear from you. So I do have a card here with a QR code. I'll give you the email address or the address to go to. It's eastpeoria2045.com, or you can go to the city's website and link to it. That survey is open through the end of June. We want to hear from you. So we're excited about it. We're looking forward to it. The branding effort that Rick mentioned earlier, we're right in the middle of the creative part of that. We look to have that information out to you later this summer, early fall. The comprehensive planning effort is going to go on beyond that into next year. But those are kind of two parallel efforts that are going on. We've got a lot of great things happening in East Peoria, so thanks, Rick.
Yeah, any questions with what's going on in East Peoria right now?
I want to know when the Tesla chargers are going to be ready.
That's a great question. They're installed behind culverts. So that is a private project. That's on private property. But they've connected them all. We're just not really sure when they're going to turn on. But they're ready to go.
Anybody got any sewer backups or anything?
It's been such a great meeting.
Or a cat up the tree? Or whatever.
Just so everyone knows, Rick hasn't answered his phone all week because he's been busy golfing.
I'm blaming it on Verizon. Yeah, I'm blaming it on Verizon, so.
Rick, I'm sorry, I have one more question.
Sure.
So I'm a resident of downtown Peoria,
Okay.
but I spend my money in East Peoria.
We appreciate that very much.
So I earn my money in Peoria, and all my tax dollars I think are mostly in East Peoria. So would I be able to fill out, like, do you have to be a resident of East Peoria to fill out those surveys?
No.
Or-
No.
We want to hear from
We want to hear from
Okay.
you. Yeah. Here, John, go ahead. Oh,
Yeah, just to Ty's point, I think, what's interesting with both initiatives is the feedback that we've gotten. We've had a lot of great responses in both surveys, both with the branding and the comprehensive plan. And the most interesting thing that we find fascinating is getting that outside perspective. And that's important. We have a lot of people, and I talk about this region. I'm a big regional guy, grew up here. I absolutely love this region. And we've been blessed to raise our kids here in this region. And thankfully, the two older ones, after they graduated, they lived outside of the region, and now both of them have moved back inside of the region. So we're blessed in that regards. But, Ty and I have had the privilege of seeing the results of the survey from people that live here, people that live in Peoria, Morton, Chicago, outside of the state, quite honestly. And it's just, we want to hear from everybody, because it's what they're doing is these companies are taking all this information and they're gonna bring it back to us with the results and say, hey, this is kind of what we've gathered. Some of that gets discounted because you're gonna have naysayers in every survey. Sadly, most of the naysayers, and that's Misty's point with this initiative that they've kicked off, the reason why initiatives like that are important is because sometimes we're our own worst enemy. People tend to be negative. They don't look at things in a positive light necessarily, and as you're trying to attract and retain talent and businesses, it's important to have a positive message. So we encourage everybody to participate. Literally these surveys that Ty's referring to, it takes you 10 minutes. It's not like you're gonna get roped into this 150 question survey. So we appreciate anyone that's willing to participate. We find a lot of great value in that because we're a little biased. Ty and I might have ideas of what we'd like to see here, but we're two people. So I'd appreciate anyone that's willing to participate.
And John, while you have the mic, real quick, any updates, city? I mean, we did the state of the city a few months ago, but
yeah,
if you could see.
No, I just, talk about naysayers, we have the citizens page and I try my best to stay off it. I don't find stuff like that productive, quite honestly, but one of the things I do want to address is that development next to City Hall is ongoing, it's on schedule. That's going to be a huge compliment to this region, quite honestly. There's 300 new residents that are going to be set up in those buildings. But one of the negative things is the parking garage went up first. And people are like, oh my God, I can't believe the city put up that ugly parking garage. They ruined that green space. I just want people, for the record, to know that entire complex surrounds the parking garage. So now the building part is going up. So you would have to stand basically where city staff parks and view the parking garage. That's about the only opening of that will be, open to the public view, if you will. But that entire complex, 4-story, will surround that parking garage. So other neat things, it's just a super busy year. We got a lot going on, but we've announced we're going to construct a new police station, and that is going to hopefully go out to bid here September, right after Labor Day. We're working with River City Construction, Midwest, and FGM Architects, and that's a much needed facility. As everyone knows, we take public safety extremely. That's like at the top of our list as far as services that we provide our community. And we take that very seriously, so we need to make sure that we have the facilities and the tools and the equipment necessary to keep our public safe. And we don't apologize for that, by the way. A lot of people were critical, oh, he said $20 million. Nothing's cheap anymore. Everything's expensive to build, but it's much needed, and I don't apologize for that. But other than that, the initiatives are really important to us, so we appreciate any feedback that we might have on that.
Yeah, both police
yeah.
and fire are fully staffed now.
Yeah, which is great. Yeah, another thing that I do want to tout because Sheriff Lauer and I kicked off, we're hosting the Illinois Juvenile Officers Association does their annual conference in East Peoria, and right now they're in town. I think they wrap it up today, but we go and we kick it off. And one thing that's fascinating about East Peoria and Tony with District 86 is here, we do have an SRO program, another thing that we don't apologize for. It's very successful. We've actually added a third officer, the second, for District 86, and we find great value in that. Building those relationships because, we talk about poverty level. Our schools have a high poverty level. And sadly, you look at the home life these kids have, and it starts young, right? And if no one's there to support them and reassure them and guide them in the right direction, where are we going to be at as a society? So, one of the things I touted was the fact that we continue to have that program. Whereas you look at Chicago, not to pick on, but I will, they booted their SROs out of their schools. And I think that's going to be a huge mistake. And I hate to see where they're at in 10 years from now, the ramifications from that. But we support things like that in our community. We find great value in it. And, we're super excited to add to that program and thank District 86 for that partnership. So, but outside of that, anyone have any other questions? I know everyone's probably ready to get out of here and get to work, but I just personally want to thank each of you for taking your time out and being here today. Thanks to Dr. Quirk Bailey and Misty. It's always great to hear from them, and truly a gem. We're super proud to have them in our region and all that they do. So thank you guys.
Thanks. Thanks, Mayor. As most of you can witness, we work with the city on many, many things, and great partnership, I believe, that we have with the city. And it helps us function as a chamber and with the businesses and the non-for-profits and all the others. So real quick, Angela's here with, as she mentioned, with the World Affairs Council. August, instead of an eggs and issue, we're going to do August 8th. We have the consulate generals from both Canada and Mexico, now north and south, which is kind of what you'd think an odd combination because you've got totally different issues coming out of both countries. So we'll have a luncheon that day. It's on our website, noon. It's a noon lunch right here. So mark your calendars for that. August 18th, General Petraeus. 19th. Petraeus. I knew I'd get it wrong. Yes, 19th. I wrote it down wrong. Okay. He's here for a luncheon right here at the Paradise also. Very interesting individual. So that's on our website. Peoria World Affairs Council is doing that. And again, big shout out to those folks. Dennis is on the board and Angela's the chairperson. We work with them on a lot of different issues, have a lot of great people come in, visit the area. So Mexico and Canada, I know two things they're interested in. One was Caterpillar, second was agricultural. So thanks to Henry, they're going to be meeting with the Caterpillar folks, and thanks to Dave from Precision Planting, they're going to be over there in the afternoon. So those are two of the big issues that they wanted to see while they were here, or subjects. So, and of course, we've got our golf outing September 12th, I think it is. It's Thursday, the 12th, I believe. So sign up for that. Oktoberfest, Business Expos, the first Thursday in October. And then a little thing called the 40th Annual Festival of Lights is coming up. And trust me, they're already working on the floats. They're already working on it. And 40 floats in the parade this year. That's Corey's goal. So got that. And as Misty mentioned also, Red, White, Boom, July 4th. Come down with thousands of your best friends down at the riverfront on both sides. Trust me, that place is a zoo. And thanks to the police and the fire department, the mayor and the city, it's a monster down there. So, if you want to come down and hang out for a while, we'll be there. So, any other questions that we can help with or anything? You good? Okay. Well, everyone have a great day and great weekend. Stay cool. So.